Imagine spending 16 years of your life trapped within the four walls of your home, sacrificing everything, caring for the sick mother of the man you built a life with, only to discover he's been living a completely different life, a life filled with travel and laughter, alongside another woman. For so long, my hands knew only the weight of service, lifting Martha, my mother-in-law, turning her in bed, cleaning up after her illness. My world was small, defined by the needs of another, the quiet hum of a life put on hold. But then, Martha passed away, peacefully, finally free, and for the first time, in what felt like forever, I saw a sliver of my own future. Walter, my husband, suggested a family road trip, a chance to finally breathe together, see the world we'd put off for so long. Hope, a fragile thing I hadn't dared to touch, fluttered in my chest. I packed our bags, meticulously, imagining the open road, the simple joy of being a family again. The suitcases sat by the door, symbols of a promise. But the moment we were about to leave, Walter stopped me. His voice was cold, detached. "There's no room for you, Margaret. You can't come." Kevin, our son, chimed in. "Mom, you're not young anymore. It's a long ride." And Emily, our daughter, just walked past without a word, climbing into the car, and just like that, they were gone. The car pulled away, leaving me standing there with the bags I'd packed for us. Little did I know, the real journey was just beginning. And it wasn't the one I'd packed for. To understand the depth of that moment, you need to understand the years that led up to it. The years I willingly gave away, thinking I was building a future for us. For 16 years, my world shrunk. It became the bedroom of my mother-in-law, Martha. It became the endless cycle of care, the quiet nights punctuated by coughs, the constant demands that came with a body fading piece by piece. It wasn't just cleaning up messes, though there were plenty. It was the physical toll of lifting, the careful work of turning her over every few hours to prevent bed sores, the gentle washing, the endless laundry of soiled sheets and clothes. My hands, once strong and independent, became hands that knew only the texture of worn fabric and the warmth of fevered skin. I did it because she was family, because someone had to, and because Walter, her son, the man I married, always had a reason why he couldn't. "I'm a man, Margaret, I can't do things like that. It's not appropriate." Or, "I'm too busy with work, you know that." Or simply, a tired sigh and a wave of the hand. All the responsibility, the heavy, unending weight of caregiving, fell squarely on my shoulders. Every holiday, every potential vacation, while they went off to travel and enjoy themselves, I stayed behind, scrubbing, washing, tending. My window to the world became smaller and smaller, until mostly, it was just the view from Martha's room. You spend so long in that space, doing the same things day in and day out, that you start to lose track of time. The vibrant woman I used to be, the one who wasn't afraid to stand up for herself back in Harmony Creek, she faded. Patience became something else, a quiet acceptance, an unasked question hanging in the air. Does the sacrifice just become life? You stop asking why me with anger and start accepting this is just how it is with a weary kind of peace. The outside world felt distant, like a television show I wasn't a part of. Too busy, too exhausted to keep up with friends, to even think about myself. Walter seemed to move through it all, strangely untouched. He'd ask how she was, sometimes sit with her for a few minutes. But the real work, the messy, demanding, heartbreaking parts, those were mine. It built a quiet resentment, a knot that tightened in my stomach whenever I heard his excuses. He talked to everyone about how much he loved his mother, how hard it was on him, how he wished he could do more. But in all those years, the only tears I ever saw him shed were in front of an audience, trying to impress someone. Meanwhile, I was making sure she was clean, comfortable, fed, simple tasks, vital tasks. That felt like an ocean I had to cross every single day. I told myself it was temporary, just until she got better, or just until the inevitable. And then The inevitable finally came. Martha passed peacefully in her sleep. The house felt different immediately. Quiet, empty, and for the first time in 16 years, standing there in the silence of a house that felt both foreign and suffocating, I could finally, truly, breathe. That first breath of freedom felt like a cool drink on a hot day, a quiet settling in my chest. After 16 years of constant vigilance, of living moment to moment based on someone else's needs, the silence felt both strange and promising. Walter, perhaps sensing the shift, or maybe just looking for a change of pace himself, suggested a family road trip. Just us. Margaret, he'd said, a rare hint of warmth in his voice. We haven't done anything like that in years. It'll be good for us. Excitement bubbled up, a feeling I hadn't felt in, well, I couldn't even remember the last time. A trip with my family. The three of them and me, together, without the shadow of illness hanging over us. It felt like a chance. A chance to reconnect, to remember who we were before time and responsibility had hardened the edges of our lives. I threw myself into the preparations. Meticulous doesn't even begin to cover it. I wanted everything to be perfect. I checked and rechecked the packing list, making sure every last detail was accounted for. Clothes for different weather, snacks for the road, maps, even though I knew Walter would use GPS. The habit of planning ran deep. I even ironed his shirts just the way he liked them, crisply, with extra starch on the collar. The day came, the car was packed, the luggage neatly stored in the trunk and the back seat. We were ready. I stood by the door, a small overnight bag in my hand, a smile on my face. Walter was by the car, fiddling with something on the roof rack. Kevin and Emily were hovering nearby, ready to hop in. "All right, let's go," I said, my voice lighter than it had been in years. Walter turned. His expression? It wasn't excitement. It wasn't even neutral. It was just cold. Flat. "Margaret," he said, his voice lacking any warmth, any hint of the man who had suggested this trip. "There's no room in the car. You can go." It took a moment for the words to register. No room, the car wasn't small. We'd packed efficiently. My smile faltered. What do you mean, no room?" Before Walter could answer, Kevin stepped forward. He was nearly a man now, tall and sharp-tongued like his father could be. "Mom, come on. It's a long drive. You'll just complain about your back hurting again. You're not exactly built for long car rides anymore." He said it like I was some fragile antique that might break if jostled too much. My back ached because I'd spent 16 years lifting and turning his grandmother, a job he had never offered to help with. Emily, our daughter, didn't even look at me. She just walked past, opened the car door, and slid into the back seat, her face glued to her phone, not a word, not a single glance, just gone, and just like that, they were gone. Walter got into the driver's seat, Kevin in the passenger side, Emily in the back. They pulled away from the curb, the sound of the engine fading down the street. I stood on the porch, the packed suitcase a heavy weight at my feet, the planned road trip dissolving into thin air. The silence that followed was deafening, a vast, empty space where my hopes had just been. Is this all I am to them? A caretaker, disposable once the job is done. Once Martha was gone, was my purpose fulfilled? The thought landed like a stone in my gut, cold and hard. It wasn't just Walter, it was Kevin. It was Emily, the children I had raised, the family I had devoted my life to. They had left me behind without a second thought. They drove away, leaving me standing there, the packed suitcase a heavy weight at my feet. The silence that followed was deafening, but the real noise, the noise that shattered everything, came the next day, from a place I least expected, social media, a place I rarely visited, too busy living in the real world where soiled sheets and doctor's appointments were my timeline. But something drew me to Walter's profile that day. Maybe it was the quiet emptiness of the house after they had left, or maybe just a morbid curiosity. And there it was, a photograph, a family portrait of sorts. My breath hitched. It was them, Walter, Kevin, Emily, they looked happy, relaxed. The kind of happy you only see on vacation, away from the daily grind. But they weren't alone, standing right there with them. Her arm linked casually through Walter's was a woman, a beautiful woman, smiling brightly. It took a moment, but recognition, cold and sharp, sliced through the shock. Sophia. I knew her, not well, not for years, but I knew her name, and I knew Walter knew her. Sophia Bennett. She had been at Summit Creek University with us. Walter had mentioned her over the years, always dismissively. A friend from college, his kindred spirit, he'd called her once. A detail that pricked at me even back then, though I'd pushed it away. And here she was, on their family trip. The trip I had packed for, the trip I was told there was no room for me on. A sudden, painful memory surfaced. Thanksgiving. Maybe 2 years ago, I'd wanted to take a nice family photo in the living room, just a simple picture on the couch. Their reaction, dismissive. Too much hassle, Margaret, Walter had said, waving a hand. Kevin mumbled something about cheesy family portraits and how nobody does those anymore. Emily had agreed. It looks dumb. Mom. They just didn't want to take a picture with me. And yet, here they were, posed happily, like a perfect little unit. With her, the anger started as a low hum in my ears, quickly escalating to a roar in my chest. This wasn't just a casual encounter, a friend tagging along. This was a planned trip, and she was clearly integrated. And the sheer hypocrisy. Refusing a simple photo at home, but creating these perfect snapshots on vacation with Sophia, it was a slap in the face. All those years I stayed home, while they went off to places I could only dream of. Was this what they were doing? Then I saw it. Around Sophia's neck, a scarf. It had a distinct pattern, a logo, an unmistakably expensive one, an LV. I knew that pattern because Kevin had recently bought something similar for his girlfriend, boasting about how much it cost. My mind flashed back to the little trinkets Walter sometimes brought me back from his business trips, or even just trips with the kids. A chipped seashell, a pair of tiny, cheap-looking ceramic figurines. He'd pacified me with pocket-change souvenirs while spending. All those years, all that sacrifice. Was I just the convenient backdrop for his real life to play out elsewhere? While I was neck-deep in the realities of illness and the grind of keeping a household running, he was creating these idyllic memories with another woman. The realization was like a physical blow. My hands trembled. The phone felt cold in my grip. The image on the screen a cruel mockery of the life I thought I had. I had to know more, and the more I thought about Sophia, the more details clicked into place, painting a picture far uglier than I could have imagined. Sophia. Elena, as she was called in the transcript, the name echoed from my Summit Creek University days. Walter's kindred spirit, he'd called her. Even back then, the phrase had felt charged, like a secret shared between just the two of them. I'd been young, naive, blinded by his attention. He was the respectable college man from our small town, the one who'd rescued me from the whispers after that night. I'd dismissed Sophia as harmless, a fleeting college friendship, youthful drama. But looking at that photo, the pieces clicked together, forming a devastating, decades-long pattern. Walter hadn't just met Sophia on this trip. Their connection, whatever it was, had clearly endured. How long had this been going on? How many of those business trips, those trips with the kids, had included her? The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. Years, a decade and a half, maybe more. I had been trapped in the quiet, demanding world of caregiving, while he was living another life, a life of travel, laughter, and shared moments. Moments meant for a family, but shared with her. I thought back to our wedding day. Standing there, in front of the minister, Walter looking so earnest, so devoted, he had vowed, "I will love you, cherish you, and be faithful to you for the rest of my life." My heart had swelled with gratitude, with love. I believed him, every single word. But if he had always felt this connection to Sophia, if she was his kindred spirit, why had he married me? Why the vows? Was it just convenience, a respectable front for the man from Harmony Creek? The thought was a bitter pill to swallow. Then I remembered the flowers. In the photo, Sophia was holding a beautiful bouquet of fresh roses, vibrant and full of life. And I remembered the dried flowers Walter had given me years ago. He'd smiled and said, "Fresh flowers don't last, Margaret. They wither in days. But these, holding up the dried, brittle things, they'll last forever, just like our marriage." At the time, it had seemed sweet, perhaps a little quirky. Looking back now, seeing the vibrant roses in Sophia's arms, his words felt like a cruel, twisted prophecy. Our marriage had been just like those dried flowers, appearing untouched by time, but brittle, dry, collecting dust, unnoticed by him while he sought out the fresh, vibrant blooms elsewhere, forever. A word I thought meant always. It seems forever can mean something entirely different when it suits you, can't it? The pain was immense, but it was quickly hardening into something else. Not just sorrow, but a fierce, protective anger. Anger for the young woman who gave up her future, for the wife who sacrificed 16 years, for the mother who was invisible to her own children, for the woman who was standing here, betrayed and slandered by a life she didn't know was happening. Rage solidified into cold determination. I wouldn't let this lie stand. It was time to confront him, time to tear down the facade he'd so carefully built. Dialing his number felt like stepping onto a battlefield I hadn't prepared for. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the cold silence of the house. What would I say? How would I keep my voice steady? But the moment he answered, his voice flat, impatient, annoyed at being disturbed. "Yeah, what is it? Margaret?" A switch flipped inside me. Fear vanished, replaced by ice, cold, hard, and sharp. I didn't bother with pleasantries. No, how was the trip? No, are the kids enjoying themselves? I went straight for the jugular. So, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, clear. The car didn't have room for me, but it had room for Sophia. There was a pause, a beat too long. I could almost hear his mind scrambling. Then, a rush of words, tumbling out in a way that told me everything I needed to know. Sophia? Oh, she just happened to be coming along. It was a coincidence. She's a friend, Margaret, just a friend, that's all. A friend? After 16 years of this, the word tasted like ash in my mouth. A coincidence, I repeated, letting the skepticism drip into my voice. Funny how these coincidences happen to line up with the trip I was supposed to be on. The trip you told me there was no room for me. He stumbled again. Well, she helped book the hotel. For me and the kids, it was easier. I let out a short, bitter laugh. Easier out of all the hotels in the country. Only Sophia Bennett could book one. I could have booked a hotel. Walter, I've booked things before. What, are you jealous? His voice was starting to rise now, shifting from fumbling excuses to frustrated annoyance. We're just friends, I told you. Stop making a big deal out of nothing. Jealous. Was that what this was? Not anger, not betrayal, not the pain of seeing the life I'd built dismissed so easily. Just jealousy? I took a deep breath, steadying myself. A friend who travels with you, stays in the same hotels. The kind of friend who warrants a family portrait on social media. I pushed, my voice gaining strength. I heard a faint sound in the background, a woman's voice, speaking his name, Sophia. Walter's tone sharpened instantly, cutting me off. Look, I don't have time for this. Stop talking nonsense. Margaret, don't go around spreading rumors. Sophia is a dear friend, nothing more. So, what I didn't bring you this time, you can come next time. All right, next time, after this. My stomach churned. All right, I echoed, the word hanging in the air. He hung up, just like that, brushed me off, dismissed the conversation, dismissed me, as if I were just a nagging inconvenience. But he couldn't brush away the truth I now held in my hands, the truth laid bare in that photograph. He thought he could just shut down the call, shut down my questions, and everything would go back to the way it was. But the way it was broken beyond repair. He thought he could discard me so easily. I decided, right then and there, that I would show him exactly what he was discarding. And it wasn't just a tired housewife. It was the woman who held everything together, and without her, everything was about to unravel. They left me with nothing but the echoes in an empty house and a suitcase packed for a trip I wasn't allowed on. But I wasn't nothing. I was Margaret, the woman who had quietly, tirelessly held this family together for decades. And it was time to take something back, something he valued above all else. Walter liked to project an image of refinement, an intellectual with sophisticated tastes. His study was filled with expensive books, leather-bound editions, signed novels. He was so proud of them, displaying them like trophies. This was his inner sanctum, a place he retreated to, escaping the messy realities of life I was left to handle. He also loved his fishing gear, kept it meticulously clean, demanded his waiters were always ready. I was the one who cleaned them after every trip. A cold fury settled over me. I walked through the silent house, no longer the invisible caretaker, but someone with a purpose. I found his favorite fishing rod, the one he bragged about. It was smooth, gleaming. I picked it up, the wood cool against my hands, then raised it, brought it down sharply over my knee. It snapped with a satisfying crack. Not enough. His study, the books, his precious collection. He valued these paper and ink creations, symbols of his intellect and success, more than he valued the years of my life, the care I gave, the woman who loved him. I yanked a stack off the shelf, the spines protesting. I wanted to rip them, tear them to pieces. But then I stopped. That would be too easy. These were valuable, yes. But their true value wasn't in the paper. It was in what they represented to him. A slow, cold smile spread across my face. Fine. If he loved his books so much, I'd make sure they ended up somewhere they'd actually be appreciated. I found a large suitcase. Not the one I'd packed for the trip, but one of Walter's. I started filling it. The first editions, the signed copies, the notebooks filled with his hurried, self-important notes. Every single one. I zipped it up. Heavy, satisfyingly heavy. Then, I found his credit card, tucked away in his desk drawer. He wouldn't miss it right away. I put it in my pocket. I wasn't just taking back a suitcase of books. I was taking back my freedom. I grabbed the heavy suitcase and walked out the door, head held high. I knew just the place. Evergreen Public Library, years ago. I'd known a man who worked there, Mr. Peterson. We'd lost touch, but I remembered him being kind. When I walked in, pulling the heavy case behind me, Mr. Peterson was at the front desk. His eyes widened when he saw the suitcase. Then, when he recognized me. "Margaret, is that really you? And what have you got there?" I managed a cool smile. "Hello, Mr. Peterson. Yes, it's me. I have some books. A rather extensive collection, actually. I'd like to donate them." He helped me lift the suitcase onto a cart. As he opened it, his eyes went wide again, but this time with disbelief, with reverence. His fingers traced the spines, recognizing the titles, the authors, the limited editions. "Margaret, these are incredible. These are priceless. Are you sure you want to give them all away? They're a legacy." "A legacy for whom? Yes, I'm sure," I said, my voice steady. "Walter, he's moved on to finer things. These are just discarded relics to him now. It's a waste for them to sit gathering dust. Better for them to be with people who will truly appreciate them." He looked at me, a puzzled expression on his face. "But your children, wouldn't they treasure these, my children? The ones who couldn't be bothered to take a picture with me, the ones who saw me as little more than a free housekeeper." "My children," I said, a bitter smile touching my lips, "don't care about books. They care about other things." I wouldn't let him pry. "Do you want them, Mr. Peterson? Or should I take them somewhere else?" Of course we want them," he stammered, his eyes gleaming. "They'll be treasured here, Margaret, truly treasured." He clutched those books like they were buried treasure, his excitement palpable. And watching him, A weight I hadn't realized I was carrying began to lift from my chest. Funny, isn't it? How the very things someone values can become the currency of your own freedom. I left the library feeling lighter, stronger. I went back to the empty house and grabbed my own small bag, the one I'd packed for myself after they left. I wasn't waiting for an invitation anymore. I was taking myself on a trip. The world wasn't the small, isolated box I'd lived in for so long. There were guides, apps, ways for a woman alone to navigate it. I booked a train ticket to Chicago. It was my first time ever sitting in a train seat this comfortable. Before, the only long-distance travel I'd known was on overcrowded buses, squeezed between strangers, trying not to breathe in the stale air. I remembered one trip years ago, going to see Walter when he first moved for work. I refused to spend extra on a plane ticket, pinching every penny. But who was I saving that money for? Not myself. As I sat there, watching the landscape blur outside the window, a thought struck me. All my scrimping, all my sacrificing, just so Walter and the kids could live comfortably. Travel, enjoy themselves. A wave of righteous indignation washed over me. No more. I got up and walked to the cafe car. I bought a hot coffee and a sandwich. It wasn't fancy, wasn't expensive in the grand scheme of things, but compared to the way I'd lived for so long, pinching every penny in half, it felt like pure luxury. And for the first time, truly, I wasn't thinking about saving for anyone else. I was just enjoying it. Chicago was a revelation, a bustling, vibrant city, so different from the quiet trap I'd lived in. And just as I was starting to truly feel alive, the calls started coming in. Reminders of the life I'd just left behind. And the chaos I'd unleashed. First Walter, demanding to know about the credit card. Then Kevin, panicking about the books. And then a message about his father. It seems the consequences of my actions were hitting them harder than I expected. I was exploring Millennium Park, feeling the rush of the city around me, when my phone buzzed. It was Emily. A text. "Mom, what did you buy? Why are you using Dad's credit card?" Then another, almost instantly. "You're being so reckless. That money was meant for my apartment renovations. Can't you be more considerate?" My daughter, complaining about a few dollars spent on a train ticket and a cheap hotel room, when she expected renovations paid for by her father's money, which was half mine anyway. I laughed, a dry, hollow sound swallowed by the city noise. I typed back, making sure every word was crystal clear. "I used your father's credit card. If you have a problem, take it up with him. But don't forget, half of that money legally belongs to me. You studied abroad for 3 years, costing a fortune. Kevin is living on a tiny budget at State University. Tell me, who has spent more? I am still alive. Emily, my money is mine to spend as I see fit." I turned off the notifications. Her panic about money, about her money, was almost comical in its self-absorption. They worried about money. They worried about books. Did they ever worry about me? Really worry later? Walter called. His voice was tight, furious. "Margaret, where the hell are you? What are you doing? You're spending way too fast. It's been 1 day, and you've blown through almost $600. That money was supposed to—" I cut him off. My voice, ice. $686. Walter. The train ticket and 1 night at the Traveler's Rest. $686. Not even half the cost of 1 night in the hotel you're staying at with Sophia. Tell me, Walter, why is it that, in this family, my spending is the only one that bothers you? There was silence on his end. I'd never questioned him about money before. Maybe that's why he was caught off guard. Instinctively, he blurted it out. "That's different. You don't earn money?" The words hung in the air, the sheer audacity. My blood boiled. Before he could backtrack, I hit him with the next blow. "Don't earn money? Who paid for your tuition at Summit Creek when your parents couldn't? Who sent you money for shirts and shoes so you didn't look like a beggar? Who raised your children and kept your household running? Often working seamstress jobs late into the night just to make ends meet. Because your first job barely paid enough, I was the one earning, supporting, sacrificing. Don't you ever dare tell me I didn't earn it." He sputtered, backtracking desperately. "That's not, I mean, the kids are working now. Margaret, They're under a lot of stress. This trip was to help them relax. Why are you comparing yourself to the kids anyway? What's done is done. You spent the money. You should be happy. Happy? With this? Happy. Es-moi, I scoffed. You want me to be happy after everything? Then Kevin called. His voice wasn't annoyed or demanding like Walter's. It was high-pitched, frantic. Mom, where are you? Where did you put Dad's books? The ones from his study. They're gone. He's freaking out. Books. Ah, yes, the books. Oh, I said, my voice calm, perhaps too calm. The books. Funny, isn't it? How important they seem now. Mom, this isn't funny. He went in there this morning, and they were all gone. He had a stroke. Mom, he collapsed. The ambulance came, a stroke. Walter had a stroke, all because of his books. The irony was almost unbearable. It wasn't terror or heartbreak that washed over me, but a strange, detached sense of finality, like watching a distant building crumble. They worried about money. They worried about books. Did they ever worry about me? Really worry. They came back 2 days later, cutting their trip short, and they brought Sophia with them. The scene that unfolded when I returned to the house was something out of a twisted play. Walter was being helped inside by Kevin, looking pale and shaky. Sophia hovered nearby, looking distressed. Emily was there too, standing awkwardly. Kevin saw me, and his face hardened. Mom, where have you been? What did you do? Sophia stepped forward, trying to take charge, her voice overly sweet. Jody, Walter told me you were having a difficult time. We came back as soon as we heard. Everything can be explained. Explained. I walked past them, dropping my small bag by the door. I looked at Walter, leaning heavily on Kevin, his face a mask of pain and anger. I looked at Sophia, trying to project calm concern while her eyes darted nervously. I looked at Kevin and Emily, glaring at me, clearly siding with their father. Kevin started again. Mom, why would you take his books? You know how much they mean to him. It caused silence. Kevin, I said, my voice low but carrying through the room. I walked over to Walter, looking him directly in the eye. He flinched. You told me there was no room for me. You left me standing on the curb. You went on a trip meant for family, with Sophia. I glanced at her. You lied to me for years. You took my life, my sacrifice, for granted, and now you're here, with her. Sophia tried to interrupt, her voice trembling slightly. Jody, you're misunderstanding. We're just friends. There's nothing inappropriate. I turned my gaze to her. A friend who travels across the country with a married man and his children, a friend who poses for family photos. Spare me the act. Sophia. We both know exactly what this is. Kevin stepped forward, protective of Sophia. Mom, stop it. Why are you being like this? She's just trying to help. I looked at my son, the boy I'd raised, the boy who now stood against me, defending the woman his father was having an affair with. The anger, cold and sharp, resurfaced. Helping, I repeated. Is that what you think this is? Kevin, helping. Is this how you treat your mother after everything I've done? He started to protest, but I didn't let him finish. I raised my hand and slapped him across the face. The sound echoed in the stunned silence. Kevin froze, his eyes wide with shock. He clutched his cheek. Mom, you hit me. Yes, I said, my voice completely devoid of emotion. And I'll do it again if you keep lying to yourself and standing against me. Emily gasped, stepping back. Walter finally spoke, his voice weak but filled with venom. You cruel woman, look what you've done to Kevin, to me. My gaze settled on him. What I've done? I walked over to my bag, opened it, and pulled out a stack of papers. The divorce papers. I walked back and placed them on the table in front of him. I've done this, Walter. It's over. Sophia gasped again, louder this time. No, you can't, if you two split up. This will ruin my reputation. Her true concern laid bare. Walter stared at the papers, then at me. A flicker of his old arrogance returned, mixed with disbelief. A divorce? You think you can just do this, Margaret? You're useless on your own. Who's going to support you? No one will hire you. I let out a slow, cold chuckle. You think you supported me, Walter? I shook my head. Do you have any idea how much it would cost to hire a nurse to care for Martha for 16 years? Thousands of dollars a month. I did that for free while you were buying expensive clothes and going on trips. I was the one keeping everything afloat. I supported this family, not the other way around. Walter's face burned with shame or rage. I didn't care. He reached for the papers, not to sign them, but with a look that suggested he might tear them up. Walter's stroke was a punctuation mark, an end to one chapter. But it wasn't my chapter anymore. The divorce battle began. And while they were caught in their storm, I was already sailing towards a new horizon. The legal battle was long and messy, just as Walter liked things to be when he was trying to control the narrative. He used every connection, every tactic to stall, to make things difficult. He still believed he could win, that he could somehow invalidate my years of unseen labor, that he was the sole provider. But the court saw the truth. They saw the sacrifices, the lack of support, the clear pattern of financial neglect and emotional abandonment. Assets were split, mostly evenly, despite his furious protests and attempts to hide funds. His tearing up the original proposal only cost him more in legal fees, and I finally had the means and the courage to build a life entirely my own. Walter's health never fully recovered after the stroke. Sophia, it turned out, wasn't interested in a man who had lost his status, his easy money, and his control. She disappeared from the picture just as quickly as she'd entered it. Kevin and Emily, well, they had their own lives, their own worries. They had relied on Walter's financial support, and when that became complicated, when caring for him became a burden that required actual effort and sacrifice, they found excuses. The children who couldn't imagine me on a long car trip also couldn't find the time to visit their father in the nursing home he eventually ended up in. I never went to see him. That chapter of my life was closed. With the settlement, I could have stayed in Harmony Creek, bought a small house, but the thought felt stifling. I needed a clean break. I moved to a quiet coastal town, miles away from the life I'd known. I rented a small room in a senior living community called Coastal Haven. It wasn't fancy, but it was peaceful. The air smelled of salt and possibility. Life here was slow, gentle. For the first time, my days weren't dictated by the needs of others. I enrolled in a community crafts class, something I'd always wanted to do but never had the time. I learned to weave, the rhythmic motion of the loom calming my mind. I took up small sewing projects again, not out of necessity to repair worn clothes, but for the sheer joy of creating. Soon, I even set up a little stand at the local market for tailoring and alterations. It wasn't about getting rich. It was about having something that was mine, built by my own hands. I wasn't wealthy by Walter's standards, certainly not traveling first class or staying in luxury hotels. But I was free. Every now and then, I'd take the train to a nearby town, just for the day. No grand destinations, no itinerary dictated by anyone else's desires. Just simple, carefree travels, going wherever I pleased. I made friends at Coastal Haven, women with their own stories, their own struggles and triumphs. We'd play cards in the common room, take slow walks by the ocean, share cups of tea and quiet conversation. There was a genuine kindness here, a sense of community I hadn't experienced in years. When their children came to visit, sometimes they'd bring me small gifts, a scarf someone had knitted, a box of local tea, a set of handmade soaps. Small gestures, but they felt like treasures. It turned out, you don't need a grand destination to find peace. Sometimes, you just need a quiet harbor, built by your own hands. The world wasn't full of the coldness I'd known in my own home. It was full of strangers willing to show kindness, to offer connection without obligation. The children I had raised, the ones I had sacrificed everything for, had nothing but indifference left for me. But here, in this new place, I found warmth and acceptance. Sitting by the shore one evening, sipping a warm cup of coffee, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt something shift inside me. The knot of resentment, the weight of the past. It loosened. For the first time in a very long time, I was truly at peace. I finally understood. The most important thing wasn't having a perfect family or a wealthy husband. It was having a heart that no one could chain down. I no longer had to live up to anyone's expectations. Years passed, the wounds healed, leaving only scars that reminded me of the journey. I was finally free. And then, one day, the phone rang again, a voice I hadn't heard in a long time. Emily. Emily's voice on the phone. Different. Quieter than I remembered. Stripped of the accusations. The demanding tone that used to lace her words. "Mom," she said, I'm asking seriously this time. Would you like to come stay with me for a while?" A pause hung in the air. My first instinct, honed over decades, was to rush in, to offer comfort, to say yes, to bridge the distance. But I held back. Emily wasn't a little girl anymore, the one who used to throw her arms around me and whisper, "I love you most, Mommy." She was a grown woman, navigating her own life, a life that had, for a long time, seemed to have no room for me either. I chuckled softly. "Emily, weren't you the one always worried about me spending your money?" She hesitated, her voice even quieter now. "Mom, I didn't understand things back then. A lot of things. I just thought everything at home was your responsibility. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I do. I do want to make up for some of my mistakes. It wasn't a full apology, not really. It was a beginning, perhaps, a small crack in the wall that had grown between us." For a brief moment, looking out at the endless ocean from my window at Coastal Haven, I felt a pang of something like the ghost of longing for the family I'd lost. But then I looked at my hands, no longer calloused from caregiving, but nimble from weaving and sewing. I thought of my friends at Coastal Haven, the laughter we shared over card games. I thought of the simple joy of my small room, filled with things I had chosen. I thought of the freedom to walk out the door and simply be. I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no either. "Emily," I said, my voice gentle but firm, filled with the quiet strength I'd found. "Let me finish exploring the world first. Then, I'll think about it." I hung up, a sense of peace settling over me. I looked out at the waves crashing against the shore. They were the same waves I'd seen my whole life in Harmony Creek, but now, they felt different. They felt like possibility, like the vast, open future that stretched before me. I wasn't just beginning when I stepped onto that train to Chicago. My life wasn't just beginning with the divorce settlement. It was beginning when I finally decided my story belonged to me. I slipped on the jacket I had sewn myself, a simple garment, but strong and well-made. I headed out towards the pier, where my friends were likely gathering to watch the fishing boats come in. My life was just beginning. Why would I stop now, if any part of my journey resonated with you? If you've ever felt invisible or struggled to find your own path amidst the noise of others' expectations, perhaps share your thoughts in the comments below. Sometimes, just knowing you're not alone is the first step. Thank you for listening.